Shop the Sherwin-Williams Memorial Day sale and get 30% off paints and stains May 15th through the 28th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here on Coffee, supporting me and helping to support the podcast. And I am thrilled to bring you episode 2 of the Private Pilates Goddess podcast. And today I am breaking down the beginner reformer. And today we are looking at the short box. We are looking at elephant. We are looking at the knee stretches, running, and bottom lift. Not too much, yet a lot. Okay. So your client has just done stomach massage. All right. They've been sitting in this semi-uncomfortable position, trying to hold their spines up and moving really through flexion, through flat spine hands off, and through rotation. And with the legs forward and on the bar. Now, I want you to think about visually the pattern that you're seeing there. I mean, and I talked about it a little bit last time. We do see this patterning on the mat between, say, like spine stretch and saw. We do see some of this patterning going on in a spine twist. But I want you to visualize how the body is in the stomach massage, where the hips are slightly lower than the feet. Okay, hips are slightly lower than the feet and legs are together, and we're going through these spine shapes. And then they're going to step off, right? And then we're moving into that short box. Now, the short box, if you think about it visually, especially in the classical work, your feet are now apart under the strap. You got 2 springs, right? We're staying with 2 springs. Your legs are now lower than your hips because you're sitting up on the box and your legs are now down in the strap. They're separate instead of together. So now we're working the glute medius and the tensor fascia lata to help hold the body in position and keep the pelvis stable. And then we're still going through round, flat, we add side bend, and then we go into rotation, right? And then we have tree. So here's the deal. The curling back here, actually, let me go back for a second. The legs are a piece of the short box. Saying it again. Legs working, hip flexors working, outer glutes working is a huge part of the work in short box. So if people say to you, I feel this in my thighs, I feel this wherever, that's okay. Their abs are also working. So we start sitting up tall, we wrap the hands around the rib cage, we go into the rounding back. Now it's important in this one that we don't go, especially in the first time on a reformer, you're not going all the way back. Okay, you're curling the hips back, you're keeping the upper back round, you're rolling back to a place you can curl up from. You do that a few times. Then you're either holding a pole up overhead, or you have the hands behind the head. You can also clasp thumbs together and just have the arms up and a little forward. And now we have the flat back hinge. Now, what I want you to remember here is this is not about keeping the spine necessarily neutral. Listen to me. Don't think about neutral spine here. First of all, y'all know how much I hate the phrase neutral spine, but it's not neutral spine and it's not neutral pelvis here. So you're lifting the spine, you're coming into a small posterior pelvic tilt or pelvic tuck. That's what's going to help protect that lower back. But you're not curling the upper body and then you're leaning back with all of that work and coming back up. Okay? You're not hyperextending at the lumbar spine. The body is just pulled together like a big canister going back and coming up. The pelvis stays in that small posterior tilt. That's what helps engage the abdominals around so that you're not just relying on the psoas or the hip flexors. Okay? You should not feel this in the back because the back should not be moving. Seriously. I'm laughing here. I'm not trying to be an ass, but your back should not be moving on the flat back. Then we lift up again and we go into a little side bend, a little side stretch. For me, I like to keep the body straight up and down. Some folks like to come into a slight forward lean at the hips. Okay, you can try both. See how they feel for you. I tend to like my clients to be right up, sitting tall, both sits bones down, and then stretching the rib away. And then we go into the rotation. Now, the rotation here, again, think about your pelvic position. It is not a neutral pelvis. Okay, this once again has a small posterior tilt aspect. So for me, you rotate the spine, you lead with the eyes, head-led rotation. You come into a little posterior pelvic tilt, and then you reach the ribs back toward the corner of the machine or the corner of the room, and you come back up, really working from the obliques, and then you do the other side. Once again, that small posterior tilt helps protect the lower back from the shear forces. It keeps the work of the abdominals and the psoas and the glutes together. Yes, the feet are still apart. Yes, you're still working through the outer glutes. This changes, okay? Where the legs are for some of these things can change later on as we move into more intermediate and advanced work. When you're doing maybe different things, bigger things, but for now, no, for now we keep it here. Then we go into tree. So now we take one foot out of the strap. We hold under the thigh, we straighten and bend the knee. We try to keep even weight on both sits bones, the breastbone lifted, the whole thing. You straighten and bend the leg a few times. You walk your hands up to your ankle. You keep your chest open. Maybe you point and flex the foot and circle the foot at the ankle a few times. Now, you take your leg back with you. When the leg is perpendicular to the floor or the ceiling, whatever image works best for you, you walk down your leg. If you're feeling good with it, you can open up and drape back on the box. Curl up your head, walk back up your leg. Keep your hamstrings strong so that you can use your abdominals and walk up the leg. If you want to, go back down, come back up, do it on the other side. And that's that. That's the short box. I also generally like to give my clients a little piriformis stretch when they come out of it. You bring both feet to the carriage. One ankle goes on the opposite knee. So if the right ankle is coming onto the left knee, I want to make sure my left sits bone is heavy on the box so that I can then open my right knee and hinge a little forward into that stretch. If I simply open the knee and start leaning to the right with the knee, I'm not going to get a good stretch into the hip because I'm not fixing the other side. Now, we see the shapes of the short box all over the studio. The rolling back is the rolling back. It's also the roll up. It's also teaser. Um, it's also roll up with the bar. It's also rolling like a ball, like all of those. Okay. The leaning back, we start to see a little bit more of neck pull if you're looking on the mat, right? And that kind of work. If you're thinking about the chair work, again, this is some of the stuff where you're leaning back a little bit um, and then doing work with your abdominals. So, say the reverse swan, uh, working into teaser and that work on the box, you're going to feel that. You know, we go into the side to side, we go into the twist. Again, think about your mermaids on the chair. Think about where you also see that work. I mean, yeah, obviously you can do the whole series on the high barrel. You can do the whole series on the spine corrector on a mat with feet under the mat strap. So, you know, this stuff can be done in varying places. All right, so they get done with this. They've had a lot of like hip flexor work. They've got a lot of leg and ab work. And then we come into elephant. Now, finally, we are flipping the relationship to gravity, right? So think about the rolling back exercise that you just did on the short box with legs apart, feet flexed, rounding that upper back. Think about your elephant here. Now, if you are on a classical reformer, you are still on those two springs for elephant. You are walking the heels all the way back to the shoulder blocks. Heels are heavy, toes are up, legs are straight. Your head and your chest are still above the spring bar so that you are looking at your springs. You are going to come into a full spinal flexion. Even with osteoporosis, it is fine here. This is unloaded flexion going against gravity. You're holding on to that bar. You want to feel like you're going to pull that bar apart and break it towards you. And then with your toes up a little bit, the round spine, all that work, you push the carriage back a little bit with your feet and you pull it back in. You push it out, you pull it back in. The upper body doesn't move. The flexion doesn't change. None of that work changes out and in. Usually inhale out, exhale in. This is the same shape as your open leg rocker. This is the same shape as your teaser. This is the same shape as your spine stretch. This is the same shape as your forward push through. This is the same shape as the upside down push up on the chair. This is the same shape as the rolling down with arm pumps, sometimes known as washerwoman on the chair. This is the same shape as horseback. See where I'm going with this? This is in many ways the same shape that you might see in rowing. Yeah, except again, different relationship to gravity. Now, here's the deal. If you are on a more contemporary reformer that's a little bit bigger and that has ball bearings in the wheels, I want you to maybe go a tiny bit lighter in the spring, but not too light. So if you were on a balanced body, I might say a blue and a red, okay? Or a green and a blue. And you're going to work there. It's going to be very difficult, more difficult on those to not have your clients go back into like a downward dog, hips up, chest down situation. but you're going to fight for that. You're going to keep them nice and round. And then after they do that, they're going to come right down onto their knees and go into knee stretches. Now, we've got 3 knee stretch positions. That's right. In classical Pilates, we like to teach knees off in beginner, even if you are just holding the position. Now, upper back really doesn't change from elephant. All you've done is bent the knees and bring them against the shoulder blocks. Full spinal flexion, think rolling like a ball, think beginning T. Again, all the same exercises, okay? Knees push back, knees pull in, feet push back, knees pull in. Nothing changes in the body stays round, the body stays in flexion. Then we go into a little extension or hyperextension. Tail comes up, chest opens, body stays in the same place, legs push back, knees pull in. Same work, again, differentiated movement at the hip. Then we round to the back one more time. Once again, chest is still over the foot bar. We're in that strong flexion. We're pulling the bar apart. We try to lift the knees up an inch or two, push back and pull in without losing that flexion of the upper body. Now, if you've got a client who's super weak, you might not try that knees off in the first session, right? You might wait a little while. Just because it's in beginner doesn't mean you have to do it all on day one. Just throwing it out there. And then we've done all this really hard work. We've been in different relationships to gravity and resistance. We've sat, we've been prone, we've done all the things. We come back to our backs. First we run. So you set up the feet with heels together, toes a little bit apart. We get that Pilates V kind of force couple here. You straighten the legs out, separate the heels to parallel. Heels are high. You bend one knee here with the heel high. You drop the other heel onto the bar. You come back up on high heels and you switch and alternate. So there is a moment of coming back up on the high heels in between each one. That's what makes it harder, actually, than the tendon stretch we did in footwork, is because you're having moments when one heel's under and one knee is up. Now, in classical Pilates, we are back on 4 springs, 3 to 4 springs. So know that. Headrest is up, all of those things. I'm going to go back in a minute and just talk about the position of the short box. So we get done with the running, right? We're maybe doing 10 on each leg, which is 20 altogether. Or you can do, 40 altogether, 20 on each leg, whatever you're feeling. Come back in. And then we bring the heels or the arches towards the corners of the bar. From this position, you lift the pelvis up. The pelvis can be curled or neutral. It actually depends on your client. In classical, it's a strong posterior pelvic tilt coming up. But because I work with so many people who have disc herniations and other stuff, I will often teach this one in neutral as well. You come up, and usually I have my clients come up to the tips of their shoulder blades and then back down halfway. It brings them usually about maybe 4 to 6 inches up off the carriage, and then you're pushing the carriage back and pulling it in. Pushing back, pulling in. Again, you're on 3 to 4 springs. Inhaling back, exhaling in. This is a moving bridge. This is glute and hamstring work. And then you come in and down, and then you're done. And you've finished that work. So that is the beginning reformer. Now, in terms of positioning of the short box, if you're on a classical reformer, it's generally going to go over the shoulder blocks, right? With the edge of the box in between the shoulder block and the post that the straps and handles rest on. If you've got someone who's super short, you might need to bring it in front of the shoulder blocks. If you've got someone who's super tall, you might bring it back to second gear and have it over the shoulder blocks. But generally, those positions should work for just about everybody. All right, my friends, we finished the beginner reformer. We will be moving into intermediate reformer starting next week. I thank you so much for being here. And as always, I would love it if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Let your friends know about this private podcast, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.